Hello and welcome to this podcast. I'm Hemant Singh and this is the Delhi Policy Group. National defense and security issues have been front and center over the past year. The world has witnessed a transformation in how wars are fought. The Indian military has experienced this firsthand. There is growing urgency to accelerate the pace of defense acquisitions and simultaneously to build indigenous capacity. And there has been talk about structural reforms in the framework of national defense to bring about deeper integration among the three services. To discuss these and related issues, I am joined in this podcast by Lieutenant General Dipendra Singh Hooda, our distinguished fellow for military strategy. And now we welcome you to our discussion. Dipendra, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
So, as we look back at the Indian military in 2025, there have been a lot of developments. There have been developments on capacity building, there have been developments on the operational side, also in terms of doctrine. In your view, has there been a single headline moment that could genuinely be called an inflection point rather than business as usual?
So if you look at 2025 and look at the headline moment, it's clearly Operation Sindoor, which was the operation that was launched by the government post the very horrific Pahalgam terror incident. This operation, for the first time since Balakot, that was 2019, saw long-range, very precise strikes against multiple terrorist camps, both in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. It saw an escalation which went on for 4 days. And I call this the headline moment for three reasons. The first is that I think it's completely redefined India's red lines. We have clearly stated that major terror attacks now will meet with a punitive military response. I mean, the response was much, much larger than what we saw in 2016 and 2019. And I think these red lines are going to remain. Second, we saw a great amount of jointness between the three services in target selection, in how the operations were conducted, the role of the three services, how it all sort of came together. So great deal of jointness was witnessed in this operation. And third, I think the combination of military force and diplomacy, politics, the fact that along with military operations, the Indus Water Treaty was held in abeyance, the fact that post the operation, we sent out delegations to various capitals of the world to explain that what is India's stance against terrorism and how it will respond. So I think this combination of political will, military capability, and diplomacy, the way it came together in Operation Sindoor, is probably a model that we will see, as we go forward, how to deal with Pakistan and how to deal with Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. And that is why I call Operation Sindoor as, maybe an inflection point in 2025. There are, of course, lessons to be learned, but, in any operation that would happen.
So you would term this as a successful integrated response,
Absolutely.
And it was a pretty comprehensive one across the board, bringing together all elements, necessary, essential elements of the government. All right, so let's continue on this Operation Sindoor. There's been a lot of conversation about its objectives, about the deterrent impact which it had, and the use of new technology, drones, standoff weapons, etc. What operational lessons do you think the services have learned and taken away from that week in May?
So, sir, you talked about what the objectives were, what lessons were. I think the objectives were clear. A lot of questions are asked. One, the objective was that we will go after not merely the foot soldiers, but handlers, terrorist handlers and the terrorist headquarters. I mean, the strike on the Jaish and Lashkar headquarters was very, very sort of significant. The second objective was that if escalation takes place, there will be a punitive response from India, and which we saw with the way in which 9 air bases of Pakistan spread across the geography were very, very successfully targeted. And I think the third objective was that even as we are conducting this operation, we need to ensure that it does not escalate beyond a particular point. So show our resolve, but not escalate it, say, to an all-out conflict. And I think we were successful in meeting these objectives. As far as lessons are concerned, I think the important lessons, if I were to class, first is, we had been thinking that Pakistan, with 1/10 the size of our defense budget, really, as we look forward, doesn't pose a very significant military threat to us. But I think with the support that it has been getting, particularly from China and also countries like Turkey, it has fairly significant military capability. And with all that has happened after Operation Sindoor, the growing power of Field Marshal Munir, the fact that they are improving their relations with the US, this means that we have to keep our eye on Pakistan, and it's going to be important that we are able to deter Pakistan from using terrorist activities. So it's not something that we can ignore and say, look, this is a weak, small country. I have talked about jointness, and I think Operation Sindoor showed that jointness is absolutely essential. If you look at the time between an incident happening and the response, it's now measured in days, not weeks and months, which means that we need joint integrated structures already in place. After a crisis happens, then we can't start looking at now building coordination mechanism or joint structures to take care of that. So jointness is absolutely essential. I think the military will also have to doctrinally look at escalation management, escalation control, escalation dominance. These are things which are a little different from conventional sort of military planning. We also saw, this was called South Asia's first drone war. So we saw the use of unmanned systems, long-range vectors, long-range precise missiles. I think these are capabilities, both in terms of developing them and also to have counter capabilities, counter drone systems. This again is something that I think the one major lesson which the military has taken, and I know that the services are now going in for drone procurements in a large way. And the last, and which I would sort of term a cautionary lesson, is that look, this is only an 88-hour conflict, largely conducted by the Air Force through aircraft operations and long-range strikes. The Army had a peripheral role on the line of control. The Navy actually didn't come into action. So we cannot translate everything that we saw in Operation Sindoor and say this is going to be the model for future wars. A future full-scale conflict will look completely different from Operation Sindoor. So that's the sort of cautionary point that I want to make is let's not look at it and say this provides us a blueprint for future wars.
So let's hope that we can take the lessons and build the deterrent capability required to prevent future wars and, if necessary, to maintain our dominance over escalation.
Absolutely.
All right. So let me turn now to another aspect. There have been these tensions on the India-Pakistan border side, but the line of control with China has been relatively quiet. And I think, however, it's useful to remember that tens of thousands of soldiers on each side remain situated and located operationally close to the LAC. So how would you characterize the situation which prevails along the LAC? And is there something which you can say about how you anticipate future developments?
So, sir, you're right. Since October 2024, when we had the agreement, at Depsang and Demchok, things have remained relatively calm. Coordinated patrolling is happening at these places, and that, of course, reduces the chance of any sort of accidental encounter or crisis from happening. But having said that, I think the key point is, the level of sort of mistrust that had come about after 2020, after what the Chinese did. I don't think that has completely gone away. So there is going to be obviously greater military activity by both sides to ensure that a repeat of 2020 doesn't happen. You have mentioned that thousands of soldiers who were additionally inducted into these areas are yet to pull back. So there is a heavy presence of troops along the line of actual control. What we are also seeing is very fast-paced infrastructure developments that are taking place. So on the Indian side, I was reading one media report which said after 2020, we have constructed more than 4,000 kilometers of roads in these high-altitude areas. All-weather tunnels are being built. Forward airfields are being built. One has recently come up at Neoma in eastern Ladakh. And there is similar activity on the other side. So you have very fast-paced developments, infrastructure developments taking place. Now, whether this leads to deterrence or it creates newer flashpoints along the LAC is something that we'll have to see as we go ahead. So I would sort of term the situation as armed stability. Tensions have reduced, but you have large force levels on both sides, better infrastructure to support operations. So this is something that we'll have to look at as we go forward. So I wouldn't say that things have completely normalized just because some agreements have taken place.
So de-escalation remains a distant goal, and in the meanwhile, the preparedness deployment and preparedness along the LAC would continue.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So that brings me to the point of capacity building. We've seen a lot of news across the year. New aircraft being ordered, commissioning of naval platforms, of artillery and things of that kind. What, in your view, have been the major advances in procurement during the course of 2025?
So, say if you look at 2025, I won't say there are many sort of big ticket items, but there's certainly gradual improvement of capability that is happening. So Navy, for example, had said in 2025 that they are going to be launching 10 new battleships, and they are very much on course for that. New destroyers, frigates, submarines have been launched. One significant agreement that has taken place is the procurement of Rafale maritime version aircraft for our 2 aircraft carriers, and as and when those aircraft come in, that's going to be a significant sort of jump in capability. On the infantry side, on the army side, we are seeing some induction of guns, artillery guns, air defense systems, new helicopters, anti-tank missiles, etc. But more than weapon procurements on the army side, I think they are looking at significant organizational changes. So now we are looking at what we are calling Rudra brigades, which are all arms brigades, combining all rather than single arm brigades that have now existed. We're looking at Bhairav battalions, which are light commando battalions for special forces operations. We're looking at induction of drones in every infantry battalion. So these are, I think, going to make the army sort of more flexible in how it conducts operations. The big shortfalls is in the Air Force, because with the MiG-21s now finally having retired, the Indian Air Force is down to 29 squadrons against a sanctioned strength of 42. And it seems to be now betting on the Tejas aircraft. 180 are on order. But again, these induction of these aircraft got delayed because Engines from GE were not coming in time. Hopefully that issue is sorted out. HAL has also put one additional production line for the Tejas aircraft. But still, you're looking at numbers of say 180. So just to get these numbers will take the next 6-7 years, because they're talking about production line capacity reaching 24 aircraft in a year. So 180 aircraft is going to take time. So I think the Air Force is in a bit of a challenging position for the next few years. What we also need, so Navy is doing quite well, but there are issues with anti-submarine warfare capability, mine warfare capability. Operation Sindoor tells us that we need a fully integrated air defense network, combining air defense of all the three services, looking at high-end threat like aircraft and missiles, and low-end threat like drones. That's another capability that we need to sort of build in quickly. So it's a 25 has been a reasonable curve as far as capability development was concerned. But as I said, there are some significant shortfalls.
Yes, and particularly on the side of the Air Force, where we need to step up the act, because we still have to go ahead and finalize a acquisition of additional aircraft, the medium combat aircraft.
Absolutely.
And then we are planning our own 6th generation fighter, which is there in the distance.
Yeah, which is very far away.
It's really very far away. All right. Okay, so then you talked about the success of the integration in terms of air defense towards in the middle of Operation Sindoor, which paid off. So there's been additionally this talk about theater commands for a very long time, and there is clearly a need for greater integration between the three services. After our experience in 2025, including Operation Sindoor, do you feel that we are any closer to a workable theater model, or are there institutional impediments which are still sort of difficult in terms of making the necessary trade-offs?
So if you look at some discussion around this in 2025, two things stand out. One is that the services understand need for greater jointness, greater integration, and some steps have been taken in this regard. So at the doctrinal level, joint doctrines on special forces, airborne operations, amphibious operations, multi-domain operations, these have all been released. Some joint military stations have come up. The education cores of the three services has now all got integrated. So there is some movement towards jointness. The second thing which is clear from 2025 is that there is no consensus within the services on what should be the structure of the integrated theatre command and what should be the responsibilities of the theatre commander. We saw very clearly, the air chief coming out against creating integrated structure. For him, what he recommended was that a joint planning cell at Delhi would be sufficient, would meet the requirement, and we should not rush into integrated theatre command. Critics of the Air Force say, look, the Air Force is using Operation Sindoor as a model, but really that is not the model for a full-scale conflict, and therefore integration is absolutely necessary. Without coming in on the debate on either side, sir, I would just like to say, look, this is a critical and important issue, and a decision needs to be taken. It's now been almost 5 years, and we've just been discussing and debating this. And this can't go on endlessly with one service saying this, one service saying another. I think if it goes on further, the political leadership must step in and come to some conclusion on this. Right now, this being up in the air is not good for anybody.
But I thought that we had already progressed to some extent to an understanding that at least there would be a maritime command. So the maritime, the peninsular jut of India and the maritime zones which surround it and the Indian Ocean, that would come under this integrated command, which would be led by the Navy. Am I right, or am I just
No? So the model that was being talked about was that there would be two sort of land-centric theater command. One which would look after the Chinese front, one that will look after the Pakistani front, and the third would be a maritime theater command, which combines all maritime resources. I think the Navy is ready to go in for this, but I don't know whether you can just create one theater command and leave the other two out. So I would think they will go in with all three, and the other two are having a critical issue. Air Force feels that by distributing air assets, operational flexibility is going to get affected. So that's something that really needs now to be resolved.
All right, let's hope that over the course of the coming year, this finally gets resolved and we move forward with the question of these integrated theater commands. 2025, as you will probably recall, was declared by the Ministry of Defense as the year of reforms. What are the key objectives that you saw being undertaken during this year of reforms, and what really was achieved?
So, sir, you're right. The MOD at the beginning of 2025 said this is going to be the year of reforms, and they listed out a number of objectives. And broadly, these objectives fell into sort of three baskets. So the first was that we want greater jointness and integration, and they also did mention integrated theater commands in that. I have already discussed that.
Yeah.
The second basket was a greater induction of technology into the military and greater synergy between the military and the civil industry, the academia, for absorption of technology into the military. Here, some action has been taken. I think through emergency procurement and through local powers that have been given to local commanders. I'm aware that a lot of the immediate requirement of troops, where we required some key technologies, those are being purchased and they are being inducted into the military. Where I think we could do better is if we had a more sort of holistic approach to technology adoption. That perhaps is going to take time, but I think the realization is there that look, we need better technology. So this is as far as technology adoption is concerned. The third basket was, look, we need to improve our procurement processes so that they have become faster and they are more responsive to what the military needs. And here, I think very specific progress has been made. We are now seeing a new defense procurement manual, which covers revenue procurements. And this has some very important positive steps. It, for example, has leveled the playing field between the DPSUs and the private industry, that no preferential treatment is going to be given to the DPSUs. It has other provisions which are positive, like giving orders for a longer period of time. Some provisions like liquidated damages that have been done away with. So the new procurement process, as far as revenue procurements are concerned, is certainly positive. I think what will be critical is the defense acquisition procedure, which covers capital acquisition. So most of our delays that are occurring in capital procurements, new inductions of equipment, and they say that the DAP is under revision. When that comes out, that will really be the key to whether we have been able to reform our procurement process.
One question which does arise to my mind, because everybody is looking for indigenization, has our domestic industry kept pace with this need for indigenous technology development? Is it still lagging? Which are the areas? Because I heard some remarks by the CDS the other day urging the industry to do better?
Look, sir, so this whole process of indigenization and the government push for Atmanirbhar Bharat has been in the works for some years. And I think 2025 saw it being taken to a slightly higher level. In 24-25 financial year, indigenous defense production has hit more than $17 billion, never this high. So today we are capable of manufacturing aircraft, tanks, helicopters, large weapon systems. Indigenous production of defense equipment is now about 65% of what the military's requirement is. I mean, a complete change from a few years ago when 70% of our requirements were imported. So there is progress. What we are also seeing is India's sort of manufacturing advantage, low cost of labor, etc. Foreign OEMs are coming in and taking on Indian partners. So we are seeing, for example, Apache helicopter parts, Sikorsky helicopter parts, C-130 transport aircraft, wings for F-16. All these are being manufactured in India. We are seeing partnerships, for example, HAL and GE for co-production of G414 engine. Safran is willing to co-produce an engine for fifth generation fighter. So I think these are all sort of positive steps that are taking place. But yes, as you mentioned the CDS's remarks, he did caution that look, there are some companies which are actually taking foreign products and then trying to pass them off as Indian. And I just hope that is something that is taken seriously. In my own talks with some of the defense manufacturers, they say this is an issue where we are finding companies buying Chinese products from another Indian vendor and saying that, look, we bought it from an Indian vendor and therefore it's Indian. So these are some issues that I think we need to look at as far as indigenization is concerned. But yes, the progress is there.
There's been talk about $5 billion worth of defense exports by 2029. But first of all, we've got to develop the capacity ourselves for our own needs, and alongside that, progress this defense export line. What is happening on the defense export side, and how much synergy is there between harnessing our resources for our own requirements and then also preparing to supply foreign.
So frankly, sir, defense exports are still low. I mean, we have set targets, but the fact is the base from which we are going is low. It's encouraging. We are exporting today to about 100 countries, and among the three biggest customers for India are US and France. But much of this export is led by the private industry and not by the DPSUs. So we are getting there. I think one more thing that needs to be done is while we will reach some level of manufacture, if we are really looking at cutting edge, high end stuff, we need to invest much more in R&D. And that's where I think we are lagging. So our national R&D expenditure is 0.65% of the GDP. Global average is 2%. Our R&D expenditure is less than 1/10 of China's. So unless both the government and the private sector step up in R&D, while we will do some manufacturing, but value addition and cutting edge technology, things like stealth technology, engines, advanced radars, etc. We will still be dependent on imports for these.
So I saw that the government had recently announced a package for indigenous technology development. Overall, I'm talking about general terms. You think that we should also have a focused program to fund technology development in the defense sector?
Absolutely, sir. It's required. So some initiatives are there. Initiatives like the IDEX. My own suggestion has been that maybe a specific venture capital fund for defense, where uh, you can bring in and encourage high tech startups and companies like that. Good model is the CIA set up a venture capital fund called Inquitel, and that has provided them with some amazing technologies. So some such measures, I think, which will help also bring in the private players, utilize the technology that is outside in the civil space. All this would help.
Well, let's hope that we also have a lot of models to work on, because you have these developments taking place in the United States. You have them taking place in Europe as well. So uh, all major players are actually on the same path of harnessing the talent which exists nationally and putting it to best use to promote the goals of more capable militaries. I hope that we will do the same. So finally, General, let's turn our attention to the human resource element. And in the coming year, you'll see the first batch of Agniveers completing their terms. What do you think is the future of this Agniveer program, and does it need to be modified, and if so, in what manner?
So, sir, Agniveer is a very sort of sensitive scheme, because it's like a social contract between the people of India, the young people of India, and the army. What has been our experience so far? So the positives are, sir, units are not reporting any issues with regard to morale, motivation. The standards for entry have not been diluted, so we're still getting good people that are coming in. Because training periods were reduced, the military has had to redefine the way it trains, getting in induction of technology, simulators, and that has also modernized, the whole sort of training system. And the Agniveers that will be retained next year, these are going to be sort of battle tested young men. So over a period of time, the profile of the soldiers, the age profile is going to reduce. So these are the positives. But at the same time, there are some issues that need serious consideration. And the first of these is, in my view, 25% retention is too low, because over a period of time, as we go and more Agniveers are inducted, you will find a majority of soldiers in units are going to be Agniveers. And this is going to affect both combat units as also units which are in role of maintaining very high-end equipment. So, for example, just imagine an infantry unit which is deployed on the line of control. Majority of the soldiers are inexperienced, less than 4 years Agniveers. So, I think there have been demands and requests from the military that you need to increase the retention percentage. Some recent newspaper reports talked about 75% retention. So I think the government should consider these seriously and see that the retention levels are increased. Otherwise, it's going to create a little problem of too many sort of young, inexperienced soldiers. Where do you get the leadership at the soldier level, at the NCOs, JCOs that are required? I also think much of this argument revolves around pensions and pay. And I think we should not bring these issues. What we need to be clearly looking at is that the scheme must benefit the professionalism of the military, make sure its ethos, values, etc., are not diluted. Those are areas that we must consider, just not issues about pension bill so much.
Well, the Indian military has had a long tradition of being constituted on a regimental basis, and with each part of it having its own particular ethos and cohesion and ability to stand shoulder to shoulder when it comes down to laying your own life on the line for the nation. So I hope those considerations really remain paramount rather than the issues like, we've got to cut costs and therefore we need more lateral entry of Agniveers. But anyway, this is a process, and there is some reform certainly required in it. And let's hope that the government will consider some reforms in this Agniveer system. So that brings us to an end of this discussion. Thank you, General, for joining me, and thank you very much for outlining the basic developments which have taken place in the Indian military over 2025. And we'll see you again on this podcast. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.